Hello, everyone. This is Chris Gaines, Superintendent of the Melville School District. Um, Thank you for participating in our recent thought exchange where we asked parents what their top questions were. So we're going to go through a number of those questions in this video today. And we also know and we appreciate a number of the kind comments that folks offered in terms of how the district, how our buildings, how our teachers, and how our employees have been performing during this unusual time. I hope that you've had the opportunity to participate in one of the question and answer sessions hosted by your building principals. Those are always the best place to get kind of the most recent and updated information at the building level. So what we're going to attempt to do in this video then is kind of to respond to the top questions that we're seeing kind of at the district level.
What is the school going to do differently in the 2020-2021 school year to prepare for any future pandemic or other unexpected closures?
We don't have a definitive answer to that one quite yet. We have started planning. We've got an internal planning group that has met, and we're also part of a regional group that's been meeting around what those possibilities might look like. We don't have an answer to that yet, though. But as soon as we have a plan, we've been trying to get those plans out to folks. So it's going to be forthcoming. I can't say exactly when that's going to be out there yet, though.
Can our students with an IEP who receive special services like speech get virtual weekly appointments?
Address this from both the early childhood preschool side as well as the K-12 side of this topic. First off, early childhood is going to support children with a continuity of learning IEP plan that with activities that are incorporated and can be done at home in the home environment with parents. Early childhood is also not currently doing any virtual therapy sessions in the preschool level, but the teams will work closely with parents and support from the school to ensure that the process is understood and communicated effectively. On the side for students that are in kindergarten through 12th grade in Melville, Special School District right now, in conjunction with Melville, is working on a process of developing learning plans. Each special school district speech language pathologist is working with families within the guidelines of the Melville Learning Plan to offer services. And the last thing I'd like to add is if you have specific questions regarding your individual student, please reach out to your child's case manager, the area coordinator for the building that you attend, and or the building principal, and they will be able to access the question and get you the correct answer in a timely manner.
What will be done in August when kids are back to assess their level of progress? How will you close the gaps between students who were able to work hard at home and those who struggled with remote learning?
I think what's really important to also recognize is that even before all of the pandemic issues that we've faced was that there were also large discrepancies between students. And so our approach will be that we will continue to address every kid and every need as we need to be able to address it. We are planning to, at the beginning of the year, with some elementary plans, to be able to assess reading abilities, very similar to what we would do at the beginning of the year. What we are planning on doing is also moving up some of our timeframes so that we can better identify and more quickly identify kids and some of the gaps in which they have in some of our core areas of reading and mathematics. If we have students that have worked particularly hard at home, then I think certainly a benefit for that particular student would be that they are likely coming in feeling a little bit more prepared in comparison to their peers. But our overall plan is very similar to what we would have in previous years, but our difference will be is we are planning on rolling out benchmarking and pre-assessing and post-assessing on a much more wide-scale level and much more quickly in our process.
What are the expectations you have of teachers and students during remote learning?
So I know we've had some questions with regards to the disparities between what teachers provide or expect of students. And so my comment to that is that the learning plan that was shared with teachers highlights what teachers' responsibilities were to be. Minimum times were established at the elementary for reading and math. Elementary tools accessible through Clever were edited at the beginning of the plan to ensure that all schools had access to the same tools. Teachers have also used Seesaw and/or Google Classroom to communicate with students. Middle school and high school teachers were asked to continue new instruction, albeit in a slower paced and slower implemented process. The district's focus has been about communicating to teachers about the minimum level of expectation that they would be putting forth related to implementation of the learning plan.
Are teachers required to use Google Meet with students?
No, teachers are not required to use Google Meet with students. As part of the learning plan, Google Meet is clearly defined as optional. There is a requirement of having 2 touch points per week that teachers should do. This can include Seesaw, that can include Google Classroom, it can include Google Meet, email, or phone call.
Some students are struggling to learn remotely. Is the emotional toll worth the continued struggle?
This is a really important question because we recognize that some families are dealing with emotional, physical, financial tolls in this process. The learning plan was created to try to not overwhelm families where parents or guardians were working and would not be able to provide the time and/or the effort needed to engage their child in an educational process. The district, as well as teachers, we're not trying to create an emotional toll on parents or kids. Above all else, we recognize that the emotional toll on parents and kids is a real thing. And we've tried to adjust our grading system as well as the work that is desired or hopeful in order to recognize the issues that are occurring. So we're not looking to try to create an emotional toll. If anything, our learning plan was intended to be able to keep it to as minimum as what would be reasonable during a time like this.
There's concern about the lack of curriculum rigor with some kids completing work in less than 30 minutes. Can you provide more challenging instruction and work? And can the district share additional resources to parents to aid in teaching?
We've heard this question probably phrased both ways. We have heard some parents being underwhelmed and some parents and guardians that are being overwhelmed in this process. So whether we have a kid that is being overwhelmed or underwhelmed, or if we have parents or guardians who are looking for more or if we're looking less, the first person that I would certainly start with would be the teacher and ask them if there's more or less that can be done for their particular students. And then if that is not leading to a desired answer, certainly talk to your building principal as well in your son or your daughter's individual building.
When does e-learning end?
To answer that question, the first part of that is technically May 27th, 2020, because that's technically our last day of school. Now, that being said, we will continue to have this plan in place for as long as we are going to need it. So we are hopeful that we will all be back together soon, but until then, our plan will be utilized as needed.
When kids return, what will be done to disinfect schools and keep them virus-free?
Safety continues to be our top priority. Deep cleaning of our schools will take place nightly when school resumes. We will not deny staff and students the ability to wear a mask or gloves. And the Melville School District will be closely following the recommendations of the St. Louis County Health Department and the CDC.
Will teachers contact parents if they see that a student isn't doing the required work?
With regards to our teachers are continuing to be able to put information into where their grade books were at previously, so teachers can still do that. Parents' permissions still allow them to be able to log into the parent portal and to be able to monitor if their student has received a pass or a fail on any particular assignment.
What is the difference between fail and incomplete? If a student does not complete some of their work for the semester, would that student get an incomplete or a fail?
The difference between a fail and an incomplete is that at the end of the semester, our teachers are going to be making determination as to whether or not students have met the competencies of a particular class. For those that have not met the competencies of a particular class, they will receive a fail. For those where there are some extenuating circumstances, family situations and others that would require us typically to be able to give a kid an extension, we have put an incomplete in place. The incomplete will last for 2 additional weeks while further decisions and further collaboration can occur with the parent, with the student, and with the teacher.
How will GPA be determined if there are just pass and fail grades?
For the second semester of the 2019-2020 school year, pass and fails will be what goes onto a transcript. Pass and fails have 0 bearing on GPA. So the GPA that a student had at the end of first semester as of December of 2019 will still be the same GPA that they have technically at the end of second semester as of May 27th, 2020. So there will be no GPA determinations, but students at the high school level will be allowed to be able to continue to earn credit towards their high school requirements. And for students that are in grades 6 through 8, a simple marking of a P or an F will appear on the report card.
How will pass-fail grades affect classes in the future and college admissions?
What we know right now is that across the world, roughly 90% of the students in the world are doing what we're doing right now, operating from a virtual standpoint. Some districts are choosing to be able to have grades, and some districts are choosing to do hold harmless. Other districts are choosing to do pass-fail. I think you can look at the flagship university of Missouri within our state who has chosen to simply do pass-fail during this time. So what I think we recognize and what we are beginning to learn is that pass-fail grades will not have a great amount of bearing when it comes to their current classes. And with regards to college applications, kids that have lived and have been in school during this time will kind of always have the asterisk next to them with regards to the spring of 2020. So while those are decisions that are going to be made by post-secondary institutions, the district will continue to support our families and our kids with regards to ample amounts of opportunities and continued rigor throughout all the programs in which we offer.
Will there be final exams this year?
There will not be final exams this year. In collaboration with several other school districts in the St. Louis, Missouri area, what we are finding is that most districts are not having final exams. After speaking to our secondary principals, we have confirmed that it is not in the best interest of kids during this time to be able to take final exams.
Is summer school still happening since the school year was canceled?
We've been planning summer school for some time, but summer school is going to look a little bit different this summer. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet because we're waiting on some final guidance from the state. We do know that for a number of years, we've offered a virtual component to our high school summer school. We'll be able to do that again without any issues. The question at the state level is what might virtual look like for a summer school at the K-8 level? So that's kind of the question that we're waiting to get answered by the state. So more than likely, if we can, we'll be doing a virtual summer school, but we also want to try to do an in-person component if we can in the late summer. So it may be a combination of the two. No definitive plan as of today.
May we please let our children use their Chromebook throughout the summer?
If we do have some kind of virtual summer school, then that answer is definitely going to be yes. If we don't have a virtual summer school and we're only going to do some sort of in-person, we haven't reached that decision yet. What we do know is that we're not going to ask people to come back into the buildings. We're not going to allow folks to come back into buildings as long as we have a stay-home order in place, and as long as we've got limits on group size. So any collection of the Chromebooks won't happen until those pieces have been lifted. Well, thank you for taking a little time watching us, trying to respond to some of your questions. We tell folks a lot of the time that Sometimes we just don't have the answers to some questions. We'll get them eventually, we just don't have them yet. And as we get information, we've been trying to push that out to parents. So I would encourage you to engage in our weekly Q&As that our principals are having and ask questions there to get those answered. So hope you stay safe and healthy during this time, and hopefully we'll get to see everyone in person at school in the fall. Thank you.